Randy here, and aka Fireworks Director. It's summertime in Georgia, and you know what that means? Besides the 100-degree temperatures, it's fireworks time. And if you're a fan of fireworks like I am, you know that the largest burst, the best blast, is going to be from a mortar. A 5-inch canister. I saw on the market today an 8-inch canister that will be launched from the tubes that come with those kits. Now I've got here, for example, a black pad, 5-inch shells, and they all come with the little sub packages inside there. You have 6 5-inch tubes, and along with that comes your launch tube. And your 5-inch canisters and one launch tube, and so the problem is you light one round and boom, then you have to go back up, reload the tube, and light it again and back all the way. And a kit of 24 rounds will typically have 4 tubes, so that means you can't really have a continuous fireworks display. And it can just take a while. Not to mention the danger of getting close to your fireworks all the time. And something I started about 6-7 years ago was creating a multi-system launch. Now you can go to Phantom Fireworks, you can go to Superior Fireworks, you can go to a lot of different retail stores and buy a 10-tube launch system. But then again, that's 10 tubes. And that 10-tube launch board or launch rack is going to cost you right around the $175, $200 mark or something like that. And you still can't put a kit of 24 rounds inside of that rack. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to take it, we're going to build a system or a rack just like this one. This here is, I've got 24 tubes, so I can load up all of these, and then I can tie it all together with fuse cord. Now this particular fuse cord here is rated to burn about 15 seconds per foot. And so you can wrap these, tape these with, I just use yellow masking tape. They have the high-speed connectors. Masking tape works just fine. This will be a 15-second. So by the time one burst gets done, if it's a straight cord, by the time one burst is over, the next round is already lifting off. Then again, you can also use some slower cord. This is 30 seconds per foot. And so obviously then your show would go much longer. You would have a bit of a delay, a bit of a pause between each round as it ignites. And so here what I've built is a 24 tube system. Now what I use is Schedule 80 PVC, not Schedule 40. Schedule 40 will get you in trouble. Schedule 40 will blow up in your face. It is not heavy enough to withstand the blast, and also the walls, the wall thickness on a Schedule 40 PVC tube is half the thickness as a Schedule 80, hence the double 40, so it's 80. That makes the inside diameter, not the outside diameter. The outside diameter is still 2 inches, but the inside diameter is much less than it would be on a Schedule 40. That is kind of paramount. That is extremely important, because your canister rounds here, they are not going to be as large in the 40 Schedule 42. Whereas this one here, that is going to slide in very, very conveniently and get a good, clean lift off without getting jammed, but also it's tight enough to get a good solid lift and a decent trajectory. And so here we go. We're going to put some of this stuff to the side, make some space on this little tiny work table out here in the carport. And so you can do this, this is a weekend project, still in plenty of good time to go get your materials and build this for this year's 4th of July fireworks in your own backyard. So let's move some of this stuff out of the way. need to fuse this for quite some time. And we'll move this other board out of the way. A little bit heavy. The first board I built was a 92 board, and that's too heavy for one person to lift. So now, to get started, what you're going to need is, if you want to do just one board, you'll need a 4-foot piece. What I've used is 5 1/4 or 5/4. So this is just over 1 inch thick. This is pressure treated decking material, and that will be the base of it. And then you're going to need one 8-foot piece of pressure treated 2x4. And you're going to cut that into 4 different pieces. The most important part, the 2 lengths here, are the exact length of the deck material, the 5/4. And now, what determines the length of my board here? Well, that really depends on what you're using for the base of the tube. Here's what I mean. Our Schedule 80 PVC. Now, I bought, you buy this in 10-foot sections. I cut my tube down to 10 7/8 inch. You could go as far as 11. You could go even up to 12 if you want. If you get 2 pieces, obviously, you'll end up with 20 sections if you go with a 12 inch. But the idea is I wanted to be able to put together something that I can put all of the mortars in at one time. Now, whether I ignite them all at the same time, that's up to me whenever I try to design the show. But I want to have the option. I want to have 24 tubes, not 6, not 18, not 20, because I have 24 rounds in a typical kit. So Schedule 80 PVC, and then over in the, and this is, by the way, this is an electrical aisle at Home Depot or electrical stores. And then in the plumbing aisle, you'll find the caps for a 2-inch PVC. And so there we go. I'm going to put that, and it's going to get mounted down. So what I was saying with the length of your board is determined by the number of rounds and the thickness of your cups. For example, I have all these caps are going to go in the line. Now, I already know, because I already built one, I know what the length is going to have to be. So I've already kind of cheated. I've already measured that out. But these cups are going to get lined on the bottom of that board once we get the board assembled. Okay? Get another cheater board here. And we can begin assembling this. Put a cheater board between those two. That'll just help me keep everything standing upright where I need them to be. So again, you really want to make sure it's flush. I'm going to put all the writing on the inside just because I want it to look as good as well as it works. And so I also use a 3-inch deck screw. It has a good star bit there, or star control, the star. Balance that up there. I think the important thing about your screws there, just make sure that they have the drill cut at the end of that screw so it avoids splitting your wood. Put one there in the center. And one to the other end. That wood is also good and fresh. It's good and wet. Has less tendency to split there as well. And it's still wet. the writing. Which side do I want to be out there nice and pretty? I'm going to keep... I'm going to put that side out there. All right. Make sure it's lined up good and even. My board here, the measurements, I believe it came out to 31 7/8, maybe 32 7/8, and was just the right size, just the right length to get all 24 of those cups on the bottom. And then I go through and I screw those cups down to the board. Then I'll insert my tubes and use PVC glue. Now the other thing I want to do this year, I haven't done it on my 92 board, but I'm going to try it on these, and that is I'm going to put some epoxy I'm going to pour some epoxy down the bottom of those tubes, because when you slide that tube in there, you end up with a ledge. And normally when you fire your mortars off, you're going to have a paper disc, sometimes a plastic disc, depending on the manufacturer of your mortars. You're going to have some debris down the bottom of your tubes. Really important to get that thing out of there, get all that debris out before you reload for another show. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pour some epoxy in the bottom to smoothen it off and make it more solid. I should be able to get a better lift with that epoxy in the bottom as well. All right, so we've got our sides there. Now it's time to go through and get some end caps. Now, so this was our first two cuts off that 2x4. And then what I did after I got what I needed there, I just split the remainder of that 8-foot in half, and that way I can put these caps on the end. That also adds for stability. The last thing you want to happen is for this thing to fall over on its side when it's fully loaded. That will cause some injuries. So we're going to have end caps added to it. That one there just didn't sit on there quite so flat. We're going to have a problem there. It'll be good and snug, that's all. All right. That out before I put it in. That will hold it straight. Stubborn screw there. All the way in. And another one all the way in. I'll put two more down here. Two in each end. The back end, we don't have to be precise, we just want that there for stability. when you're shopping for fireworks, I did find there's a place in Florida. They ship at some of the best prices I've ever seen for fireworks. I paid about $160 for 3 24-round kits. Typically around here, most retail stores, they're getting at least $100, anywhere from $100 to $150 for one 24-round kit. Because this was doing the video was kind of an afterthought, I did go to the store today and found that they had the kit that I've showed you here, that black cat. That was a $79 kit. Not a bad price for an individual kit from a retail store. Not a bad price at all. However, if you do some diligent shopping online, you should be able to find a warehouse or a wholesale program, and some places will ship, some won't. It's better, I think, to go wholesale if you're doing much of a fireworks display or anything in your backyard. All right, now we have our 24 bases, our 24 cups all set up. You can see I'm touching on each end, so that's a perfect fit for 24 tubes. Like I said, the assembling of the board was 3-inch deck screws with that star bit. We're pretty much done with that one. And then we have here, these are 1 1/4 inch screws here. And these also have the drill cut, so they have a slice here at the end to be able to drill, as well as self-drilling screws. But they also have a large head at the top of the screw to make sure that they don't just go through the PVC. So that's got a large head on the screw to be able to bite onto the PVC. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get the screw started because it's drilling through PVC. Just a steady hand and good pressure on the drill. Four down already. Every now and then the PVC cups will get a tendency to spin on you, and you won't get to drill all the way through. Really not a whole lot of tension on these screws once you get them in. Obviously the blast is pushing them down anyhow. See, I created my first board about 6 or 7 years ago, and in the process, first attempts, we figured, well, we'll put the fuse out the top of the tube, and as the fuse burns, the round will drop down into the very bottom of the tube. But no, we actually had an accident in one of my first attempts where the round did not eject. The pressure was there from the lift. So there was already some pressure in the tube. Then the actual fireworks detonated inside of the tube. So that tube basically sent shrapnel all over the backyard. And even to this day, the largest piece of PVC I found from that tube was about the size of my thumbnail. Amazingly, we were not hit. And so just going to say, when you light your round, don't be close to this when it goes off. Other than that one accident, I've never had major issues. It is safe, but you still don't want to be close. You still don't want to be close when those rounds start going up out of those tubes, because you never know what can happen. One of those that want to be stubborn. 6 more here. Now in that large board, after 6 years, I have only had one tube come out of its position. And that was 3 years ago, when we used some of that fuse cord. And here's a bit of a warning: always check to make sure of the timing of your fuse cords. We purchased a few bags of fuse cord, and they were all marked at 30 seconds per foot. Unfortunately, they were wrong. It was more like 3. And so instead of having a launch every couple of seconds, we had a lot of simultaneous launches. And although it was a grand display, it only lasted 2 minutes. And one of the tubes at the end of the show, one of the tubes was blown completely off the board. All right, and that was that the tube itself, the base was still on the board, but the tube came detached. Too much violence around the PVC glue. That's what we were going to use to hold these together. There was too many blasts at the same time, and it caused one of the tubes to work loose. So now I've got my box here of all the rounds we'll need, or tubes we'll need. Kind of warm out there in the sun. Yeah, it's summertime in Georgia. It's about 100 degrees out today. And here we've got just the medium clear PVC cement. And I'll tell you, if you have an issue with your pipes coming off, you can also use a screw going into the cup. Make sure that screw doesn't go all the way through the walls of your PVC tube though. That'll cause a problem with your mortar rounds not coming out of the tube. And so here we go. We're going to put well, that just cost him about $10 worth of fuel. Glue on there. That's the glue on there. Now these tubes do not need to be perfectly straight. If all of your tubes are perfectly straight up and down, it can lead for a very, very boring show because you know exactly where the round's going to go every time. You want some bit of a spread in where your rounds actually explode in the air. delivery. And he's going to have our 1 gallon of epoxy. So once this thing sets up, once this PVC glue gets all set, we'll be ready to epoxy our bases, and we'll be ready to go as far as the bases. Now, what I'll also do, I've got a 1/4-inch drill bit here. I'm going to come down about 2 inches, and I'm going to put a hole in the side of each one of these. This is where the fuse is going to come out. So that way I have my fuses all taped together down low, and that way we won't have any kind of crossfire. One of my original designs, we had them going across the top. The problem is sometimes the sparks would come over and ignite another section of the tube, so then we would have 2 sections burning at the same time, and it would kind of mess up the show. You don't want to get too far down there, because remember, you're going to have to reach down there and put your fuses in. All right, now we have our fuse access in each one of the tubes, and you notice these are not all straight exactly up and down. You can see some angle one way and some the other way. That's all right. And you'll get a better fireworks display that when they have that different angles here and there. So here we go. That's our 24 tube system, and we're going to put that to the side. Wait for that glue to dry on the bases, and wait for us to mix up some epoxy and start filling in the bottom. All right, here we are back. The glue has settled, or is cured in the tubes and the bases. And down here, the UPS man has been here and dropped off our 2-part epoxy. So we're going to go ahead and mix up a bit here. We're going to have equal parts. Stop just short of the line and make sure I have plenty of room to stir. Cap on there. I'm really not sure how much epoxy I'm going to use in all these different tubes. There we have just about equal parts. And I put a water bottle, an empty water bottle, I cut the top off of it. I put it out in the sun about 5 minutes ago. And it is good and dry. It's about 100 to 101 outside now, I believe it is. Thankfully, I'm in the shade. So here we go. We'll put our 2 parts in the water bottle here with the top cut off. Like molasses. We've got 1 full bottle and a little stir stick here. Get the same consistency throughout. I said, I had no idea how much epoxy each tube was going to require. We'll figure that out as we start pouring in there. The epoxy that I'm using, I ordered that online. It's just a tabletop kind of resin and hardener, and hopefully we'll be able to pour that in there. See at the bottom of the tube, that's just enough epoxy to hit the bottom of the tube and fill up the cup, the base. And there we go. So that one bottle covered 9 tubes. By the way, I did level the table up, so hopefully this epoxy is settling nice and level. Go ahead and do that again. That was so much fun, we'll do it again. That much there. And equal parts there. This epoxy that I ordered, they did say that I have about a 30-minute working time with it. Probably should be wearing gloves. I can feel my fingers all slimy from getting a little bit of dribbles on it here and there. See, this epoxy, I'm hoping it will smoothen out the bottom and make it so where I don't have debris that's really hard to get out. On the original prototype board, there was a ledge at the bottom of the tube where it's glued into the base, and it causes the little cardboard discs to get caught up in there. Alright, that was up to here. Alright y'all, here we are back after a few days. The epoxy has been poured down in the bottom in the base caps. It's been there for 3 days now, so it's good and solid. All set up. We're ready to start putting our rounds in, getting this one loaded up. Just as a trial run. Now I will be straight up with you. I've already put the other board in the backyard and kind of fired some off a little bit earlier than the epoxy said, but it was good and solid already anyhow. Yeah, so I did some tests last night, yesterday afternoon, and I took some very similar rounds, very similar effects and everything. I put one in this tube and launched it, and then I put one in the tube that comes along with the kit. Launched that one, and you know what? They both went the same trajectory. They both went about the same height. So what I'm getting here is pretty much just as effective as the tubes that come with the kits anyhow. The only thing is that, of course, now I can put all 24 rounds in a rack like this, and really, in a sense, turning that 24 box of a 24 count box of mortars into a 24 shot repeater, repeater on steroids. Like I say, you get more of a blast, more of a burst. I guess a larger effects from mortar rounds as opposed to repeaters. And so this is in a sense making a repeater out of that 24 case. So I'm going to put the fuse into the hole here. I'll take the rest of the load round and drop it in. I'm looking for that solid thud to make sure that that firework, that mortar round is seated tightly or firmly at the bottom of the tube. The last thing you want is for one of these rounds to not be situated or seated firmly at the bottom, because that way you wouldn't get any lift, and you'll end up with a detonation of the fireworks detonating either in the tube or very, very close to the ground. Either way is just as bad. So I did have one of these rounds go off inside the tube before, and the amount of the largest piece of PVC I found after that was about the size of my thumbnail. So very dangerous when the rounds go off inside. Now I have a couple of different pieces of cord here, fuse cord, and if you can actually feel this cord, one is it's more stiff, it's more rigid than the other. And that would tell me that one is going to run in about 30 seconds, and the other one's probably going to run closer to 3. So for example, and I found if I take a straight blade and just push it down on the fuse cord, it sticks off pretty quick and easy. And so here we go. This being the 30 seconds. Grab the lighter here. Move that down away from the fireworks, and well, if I hold that somewhere, it's gonna jump out of my fingers. You see, that runs at a very slow pace, and as soon as I take the pressure off of it, you can see that piece just kind of flew off in the distance. This, on the other hand, is much faster, and this should run about 3 seconds per foot. And that was too fast. I didn't like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire 3 of them up in this short fuse, and then I'm going to put 3 of them up on a fast fuse, and we'll set those off later this evening when it gets a little bit darker. Feed the end there in. See it on the bottom. In the test runs yesterday, I was trying my best to get 2 of these rounds to go off simultaneously, and they were close, but there was a little bit of a delay between the 2 rounds, so I didn't really get a true simultaneous blast, just to make sure that I don't have movement or any kind of disruption with the tubes themselves. These tubes are actually on this board really good and solid. We've got 6, 7, 8. Here's number 10. you want to see the full effects of the full show, on July 7th, I'll be recording, and we'll probably post that up on Facebook Live. And you can see it on the Masters Transport Ministries Facebook page. I've also loaded it up onto YouTube as well. So now, we've got our slow burning fuse here. And I like using this 3/4 to 1 inch yellow masking tape, old school masking tape. I found it's usually easier to take a few pieces. Next Saturday, I'm gonna, or next Sunday rather, I'll have 3 other people volunteer to help wire this thing up. But we'll have somebody come along and just put little strips of tape on the top of every canister, every tube that it has around, which will be all of them in this case. On Sunday, we'll be loading the full 90 tube board plus 2 24s, and I will have to then fasten 6 more the factory tubes down to the floor of the trailer to be able to just light one fuse and be done with it. All right. And then we're going to start wrapping this together. There's that one. I like to make sure there's a good distance of contact with the fuse cord, just to make sure that they all ignite and I don't have any alibi rounds, as we say in the Army. Last year's display was pretty good, but after the whole show was over, I found that I had 3 or 4 cakes, 3 or 4 20 round repeaters that never went off. And I also had an issue with one certain type of repeater that after the fireworks was detonated, after the repeater was done, the things would ignite the cardboard tubes. And there's a few times where I had fire on the trailer, and I had to go up with a water sprayer and put it out. In fact, that being said, I would highly recommend anytime you're running with fireworks, have an extinguisher nearby. Even if it's just water, water would be the best thing to put out. Well, obviously any kind of grass or paper debris. And you have an extinguisher. I use a garden insecticide sprayer that's all pumped up and ready to go to action. You could use a water extinguisher also. All right, so here we've got the 2 ends. Like I say, this is just going to have a different effects here. One's going to be fast, one's going to be slow. And then here, I'm going to try once again. We'll use the slow one here. And I'm going to take here, run both fuses together. So this will be close to a simultaneous lift. Make this a little bit longer, give me more time to get away, because again, it's a fast fuse. The way I can tell this is a darker color, but it is more rigid. A light color, more flexible, tells me it's going to be a faster fuse. Always, always, always test your fuses. You open up a package, just take a few inches of it, of that fuse, and set it on the ground and light a piece of it, just so that you can make sure that what's in that bag is what is supposed to be in that bag. Otherwise, just what we had 3 years ago, our 20-minute show was done in two. And a couple of extra pieces of tape. And tape that in there, not a good idea. So what I've seen some people do on some larger shows, like we're going to have a 16-foot long flatbed trailer with a lot of repeaters and a lot of these motor tubes. I've seen where some people have gone over with aluminum foil and cover the entire trailer. So that way, if you have a round that detonates low, or if you have sparks that come down, it'll hit that foil, not your fuses, and then kind of save your show from premature ignitions. And so we're all set for this morning or for this afternoon. Later this evening, as it starts to get dark, we're going to take this in the backyard and see how she rolls. All right, here we are. It's getting a little bit dark, but I don't want to do this before it gets too dark, and we'll be able to see the tubes. But we've got them all loaded up, and now the slow burning fuses are on this side. The fast burning fuses are on the other side. These two are the ones that I set to where they'll go off almost simultaneously into the second two. So we're going to light the slow fuse first. That fuse is burning about 30 seconds per foot. And it's going to be 3 rounds. All right, that's that slow burning fuse. Now the next one's going to be a fast burning fuse. You'll see a significant change in timing. And this time I'm going to light and get away because I know it's going to go fast. Remember, that's that fast burning fuse, and 3 years ago, that was what the entire show was set up. That's how fast the entire thing went. And so, again, we're going to go back to the slow fuse, and this will be the first round to go off by itself, but then the next 2 should go off almost simultaneously. Now one of those was called a mine. Saw where it had a lot of effects coming up right straight out of the tube. That was intended that way. So now this one, again with the fast fuse, and also tied into the double round for that last liftoff. All right, there you have a 24 launch tube system, and I know it's kind of hard to watch the launch as well as the airburst, but to see the amount of lift that you get out of this tube system is actually comparable to the stock pipes, if not even better. Some of those last ones I was behind watching, and they got quite a bit of air before the major, the effect detonated in the air. And so looking really forward to doing this next Sunday, July 7th. I'll be out at Story Mill Road Baptist Church. We're going to have an excellent dinner at 7 o'clock, and when it gets dark, again, I will have the camera set up and record the show from start to finish, and I'll get that posted up later. But that one's going to have 144 mortar tubes, as well as a lot of other repeaters. We're looking at about 6,000 launches altogether. Some of those are just kind of like a Roman candle type effect, very small, but we should have over 2,000 airbursts using a mixture of repeaters as well as the 144 mortar tubes. So enjoy the 4th and be safe.